Whatever.
Hi Playmates, how are you? We all know that Saint West has probably one of the best arcs in the Exos Heroes game so far, and successor John Donk. John Donk, the wife of the husband of Queen Carrie and Queen Emma, has come back in his really cute prince form as a stronger than his adult form, gold Fatecore. So I guess he was actually quite a bit stronger when he was younger, at least in the alternative parallel universe. So let's discuss if he's actually going to be a really good addition to the Saint West team makeup. So I think they made a typo here. He is a gold Fatecore, so technically you do need to pull 28 times for him, and his costume actually looks pretty darn cool. So if you take a quick look at John Donk right now, as you see here, he has the thrust. I think thrust is one of my favorite passives now. The ability to stun is perfect, especially with the mana gain and removing mana. Declare a victory increases on defense by 97% for 8 turns, as well as a King's Army deals 225 damage to all enemies and deals additional damage equal to 200% of defense to an enemy with the bramble mark. So he wasn't anything kind of special whatsoever. In comparison, now he has a buff called Triumph. So it says, if a buff is applied on self, grants a buff to all allies that increases attack of the target by 15% and resets own turn by gaining 5 stacks of the buff 1 time per round. So that's actually pretty great and can be stacked up to 5 times. There's Fish and Water. Special grants share health to an ally with the highest attack in the back row, excluding self, for 4 turns and increases the target's attack by 30% of own defense. And Bravery of the Wealthy grants a barrier equal to 100% of own defense to all back row allies at the start of battle. So as we know that John Donk, he's a defensive hero, and even before his regular attacks depended on his defense to kind of buff up the allies. And now it looks like there's actually quite a lot of interesting updates that allows him to grant even more buffs to the heroes. This is actually perfect because if you recall, Carrie's gold Fatecore has flow of mana that gives back row allies permanently gain 1 mana, and if there's 3 or more living allies at the start of round and after the first round, increases on attack, defense, and maximum health by 25%. And she also increases the attack of all allies by 20% already. So I believe that, John Donk's buffs will stack with Carrie's attack buff as well, and not to mention Marius as well. If you remember his attacks, his corruption will increase his own attack by 20% for 7 turns upon receiving health regeneration effects, and not to mention his second skill, Fallen Tree, increases attack of all allies by 30% of own attack for 6 turns and increases critical hit of all allies by 53 for 12 turns. His third skill, Violet Sword, deals 1050% damage to one enemy while decreasing block value by 50% if Carrie's bramble has gone off on the enemy. So what does this mean? So this means that if you have Carrie, Namaris, and John Donk in the Saint West team, you have Carrie and Namaris in the back and John Donk in the front. You want to try to have John Donk with the highest defense, and you also want to try to have Namaris actually with the highest attack, and possibly Carrie after. The good thing is that Carrie applies bramble marks as she has the highest attack for the enemy, so it doesn't really count for her allies. So you want to make sure that you have Namaris with high attack in order for this to work. So basically, Carrie is going to supply herself in Namaris with mana. She's going to decrease the health regeneration and health of enemies with her bramble mark. She's going to increase the attack of all allies, and she's also going to be increasing her defense, maximum health, and attack if there's 3 or more living enemies at the start of the battle after the first turn. And she can also apply Nullify Heal and Mana Burn to the enemies as well. Then you have John Donk, who would have been buffed by Carrie's attack boost. So since he has a buff applied, he's going to be granting a buff that increases the attack by 15% and also possibly get a reset turn for himself if it stacks. She's going to be granting shared health as well as attack increase to the ally with the highest attack on the back row, which in this case will probably be Nemarius, while granting a barrier to all the back row allies, while also at the same time possibly giving John Donk himself a buff to increase his defense to straighten the barrier, which is perfect because then you have Numarius with this high speed and attack in the back row, who is not only going to increase his own attack by 20%, and if he has any health regeneration like with Dorka, possibly pairing up with that, and then you have his second skill that increases the attack of all allies by one attack also increases the critical hit, and with all the buffs that he's gaining from both Carrie and John, he can unleash his Violet Sword, which deals 1050% damage and also decreases increases the block value of the target by 50% if they have the Bramble mark from Carrie. So basically he's gonna be a full-fledged assassin is basically what's gonna happen in this case. And so you end up with a really strong base St. West team that's kind of like a cross between a Le Nombre fast attacking team and possibly like a Race to Red defensive team, where you have a protection from John, increased attack from Carrie and Nemarius, and their son is pretty much unleashing his wrath and sorrow upon all the enemies for a quick assassination attempt after getting all the buffs from his parents. Then you can add heroes like Dorka, who does generate the health regeneration. Of course, now it's going to be a little bit difficult to get her attack high enough in order to kind of apply all the buffs, so you're going to have to try to balance things out there, especially since she doesn't have a Fatecore yet for the core memory, whatever. And other heroes like Misty would also make a perfect addition to this team as well. But you get the point. So if you know, on paper, they look pretty good. You're gonna have a pretty good back row focused team, and I would think that they're somewhere between like the Le Nombre fast killing team and Race to Red, where there's more of a defensive team. So it's kind of like a good middle ground in order to kind of build up a team that's not only focused on defensive powers, but also focused on the attack. Then we move on to Hierarchy, which increases his own defense by 73% for 8 turns, grants reflect damage to self for 7 turns. His own defense is the highest among allies, which is gonna be pretty easy to do, especially if you're gonna be putting Carrie and Nemarius, and then provokes all back row allies for 7 turns 1 time per round, which is also great because his defensive and his health should be the highest on the team, so he could kind of tank all the damage. His roles and customs deals 225% to all enemies and deals additional damage equal to 200% of own defense to enemy with the Bramble mark. So that extra 200% damage as an AoE damage is also going to be very significant, especially if you're getting all that attack boost from Carrie as well as Nemarius' second skill. So is John Donk worth it as a gold Fatecore? I do believe he's obviously much better than his base adult form at the moment, and his uses for his buffs is definitely going to be helpful for any St. West lineup in order to build a team that could really take out quite a lot of heavily armored enemies and stall teams like Race to Red teams and Dorka team lineups. And not to mention, it's going to be really sweet to see John and Carrie in the younger forms again, where they were really like friends, as you kind of talked about in the last core raid story review video. I think once I pull for John, which I think I will, I'll put them on the airship so I could kind of see them together and let them have their own peace and happiness that they weren't able to have later on. What are your thoughts on John's gold Fatecore? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like random gaming content, especially on mobile gacha games, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I post every Wednesday and weekends. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe and take care.